miles north of Perth, on the Highland Main Line, was Ballinluig, junction station for the Aberfeldy branch. In the branch platform, 55217 of Perth Depot waits to start its 20-minute journey. A major feature of the branch was Ballinluig Viaduct, which carried the line across the River Tay, and shortly after the river crossing was Balnagard Halt. The only intermediate station was at Grantley, halfway along the branch. The 9-mile branch was opened by the Highland Railway in 1865, and just under 100 years later, on the 3rd of May 1965, it was closed by British Railways. We now move a further 60 miles north to another junction station, Aviemore. In April 1960, a pair of Pickersgill 440s arrive at Aviemore with the northbound Highland Mail. Aviemore was a scheduled stop in order for the locomotive's water tanks to be filled and footplate crews to be changed. With that completed, it was time to head north on the remaining 35 miles of the journey to Inverness. For many years, regular visitors to Aviemore were the Great North of Scotland Railway's Class D 40s, and in 1958 the last of the class, number 62277 Gordon Highlander, was restored to GNSR livery at Inverurie Works. Now renumbered 49, Gordon Highlander's continued use on the Speyside line was to be short-lived, and a year after its restoration it was transferred to Glasgow's Dorsholm Depot to be used on special workings alongside the 3 other restored pre-grouping locomotives. To prepare for working back to Boatham Garden and the Speyside line, Gordon Highlander waits to move on to Aviemore Depot's 60-foot turntable. The last steam locomotives to see regular service on the Highland Main Line were the Black Fives, and heading north from Aviemore in 1961 is Perth's 44721 with a freight working for Inverness. By the early 1960s, Aviemore Depot was home only to the diesel rail buses that worked the Speyside line, and it's on a rail bus service that we leave Aviemore behind. Five miles from Aviemore was Boatham Garden, now a major station on the award-winning Strathspey Steam Railway. In 1964, though, it was a quiet junction station, where the Highland Railway and GNSR routes diverged. On leaving Boatham Garden, the rail bus diverged east onto the GNSR route and past the abandoned engine shed, which at its closure in 1958 had been a sub-depot of Aviemore. On the approaches to Nethy Bridge, 10 miles from Aviemore, there was a brief pause in the journey in order to operate level crossing gates, and after the rail bus cleared the crossing, the gates were opened once more to road traffic. From Nethy Bridge was Granton-on-Spey East Station, and 9 miles further up the line was the station at Advie. Next was Ballindalloch, whose prosperity was based on the local whisky distilleries. Just less than 2 miles further on was Knockandhill. Rail buses first arrived on the Speyside line in the late 1950s, and following their introduction, several new halts were opened. Although Derluain halt had been opened by the LNER in 1934 to serve the nearby distillery. One of the largest stations on the line was Aviemore in the heart of Speyside, and famous for its distilleries, salmon fishing, and since 1898 as the home of Walker's shortbread. The Wycombe rail buses had a claimed top speed of 54 miles per hour, a largely irrelevant figure, as 75 minutes was allowed to cover the 39 miles from Aviemore to Cregellachie. The Speyside line was closed in sections from 1965 onwards, with the final section from Cregellachie to Elgin closing in November 1968.